time to go. Time to bring back the unicorn. With his floppy hat.
It's our mini horse.
Our Muhammad diversity unicorn is ready to go. We got quite a lot of stuff to deal with today, so we gotta charge through it at lightning speed, and y'all have to try and keep up.
Okay. It was a busy week.
It was a busy week.
Very.
All sorts of crapola.
So much crapola.
It was like raining.
You know how they say shit hits the fan sometimes, or like people warn that shit is going to hit the fan?
Yeah.
There was a fan that was spinning
and stuff hit it.
And someone flew.
Someone opened the floodgates
yeah.
at the fan. I don't know. First thing we could do would be we're supposed to talk in general about TPUSA and what it has become. I mean, it's not categoric. It hasn't become one particular thing categorically, but it's just very interesting. It seems to have, maybe it's because Christmas and Jesus is around, about to be born.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what's motivating it, whatever. But they seem to have picked themselves up off the ground and reformed themselves, or formed themselves anew after Charlie Kirk's assassination. And the big question was always going to be, I suppose, after Charlie, since he was TPUSA,
what then?
What was it going to become after he died? And it's taken a while. It's been a few months, right, to figure themselves out. And it seems to be basically pyrotechnics. That's what they are. They're basically now a pyrotechnics company that releases fireworks whenever anybody comes on stage at any of their events. Especially when what's her face?
The CEO.
The new CEO. Is she a new CEO?
She is. She's top dog. Yeah.
She's top dog. So she's who else would be, right? Fake Erica. Hard to take her. At least get rid of this super long, super heavy eyelash. What's that called? Mascara?
Yeah.
Not mascara. Is it mascara? I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you put in your eyelashes?
Yeah.
Okay. And or eyeliner. Just stop wearing so much of it. Doesn't help. You don't look genuine. But maybe it goes with the fireworks. I don't know.
They've always been heavy on the fireworks, though. I think they've always been heavy on.
Well, all American. Well, maybe I don't know, but forever. But like, obviously, yeah. I suppose the RNC and stuff always loved a bit of fireworks and stuff like that. Yeah. Maybe the DNC did as well. Maybe it's more an American thing.
Americans love their spectacle.
Political theater, yeah.
Yeah.
It's aping those. It's behaving like the RNC and the DNC.
Yeah, well, that's the reference to the yardstick, right? It's in the same ballpark. This is Erica a few days ago. Was this at the beginning? Was this AmFest? Is that what it's called?
Yes, it's America Fest.
America Fest. It's a fest of America. Here she is, CEO of TPC. So it's TPUSA America Fest. Yeah, nice. So beautiful. I see there. That's mine. America Beautiful. That's my comment. I might have stolen it from someone. She's going through the 5 stages of grief: pyrotechnics, podcasting, grifting, and acceptance of large amount of cash.
That's 4 stages. What's the 5th one?
Fifth. Well, I couldn't mention the 5th one. Had to do with organ theft.
The 5th one is, we'll see, running for president.
Yeah. Okay. We can.
The 5th one is an affair.
Oh, it's 59 seconds. Yeah. So she just starts
that head lift thing she does.
Moving.
She's an actress. She's a natural actress.
She's a beauty pageant queen. And then at the same event, not necessarily the same day, she said, this was a bit of a, just when I said grifting there, 3 stages of grief, one of them being grifting, she introducing a guy here, you can have a listen. She had a bit of a slip of the tongue.
Despite the devastating loss of Charlie Kirk, my incredible husband at UVU, Caleb has persisted with the same gift. Grit.
Sorry.
Oh.
Got it wrong twice.
Oh.
Trust me, you're not a grifter,
Grift.
honey. It's all good.
You're not.
Nobody,
I am.
nobody up here is a grifter. This is not about grifting at all. Don't forget to buy some Charlie merch. Don't forget to buy t-shirts from my dead husband.
Don't forget to take a picture at the tent we set up.
Exactly.
Memorializing.
Yeah. Come and
relive where he got shot.
Come and relive the Charlie Kirk assassination. That was part of this whole AmFest thing. So they went back to UVU and set up.
No, they took the tent.
Oh, they took the tent with them.
Yeah, that's put it here in the auditorium.
Okay. Yeah, so it was
and you could pose for a photo under the tent that Kirk got assassinated in.
Here's me at Charlie's assassination tent.
With a picture.
Tent. Look, there's still some blood on it.
Oh, they also had the microphone he was holding in his hands encased in a glass case with a light in it.
The golden microphone.
You could see the mic.
Because they couldn't put the mic that was on his shirt in the glass case as well.
That's gone missing.
But so there's that, obviously. But the main thing that I've noticed about TPUSA and what's become is probably best described by this, what do you call him, Jack Posobiec?
Yeah.
Grifter, maybe? Grifter, I don't know, have a look. This is just 12 seconds. Nothing says that music, him, Jack Posobiec, and a pair of rosary beads being held aloft. I mean, the two just go together, that music and rosary beads, right?
Yeah.
It's rapping for Jesus or something, or getting down for Jesus, whatever.
Bobbing your beads with Jesus.
Bobbing your beads for Jesus.
For Jesus.
And then, I don't know, they had people, obviously this isn't the only thing they had there, but they had this guy, Bryce Crawford, never heard of him, but again, it's a good example of the kind of thing that was going on at TPUSA AmFest.
Oh, this guy.
And 2 Corinthians 5:10 says that every human being is going to stand before God and be held accountable for every action, whether good or bad. No one can run away from the things that they've done. No one can. I mean, think about your biggest mistakes. You can't run. And if you've been set free by the blood of Jesus and received this beautiful gift from God, and you just want to gatekeep it, no. In fact, that's the most selfish thing I could do is gatekeep the love of God. I don't want to do that. I have been radically changed. My stone heart ripped out of my body and been given this new life. And if anything, I want everyone to experience this same Jesus.
Everybody. So this is, obviously this is something. Was TPUSA always about this? I don't know. Is this resurgent after Charlie Kirk's thing? I think it is, because a lot of people seem to have, in general in America, Christians or conservative Christians light previously have now become a bit more hardcore because, I don't know, somebody getting major conservative figure, let's say, getting assassinated just turns people back to Jesus. And not only Americans, because also at TPUSA, this guy, have a listen. This is Russell Brand, of all people.
Heavenly Father, would you guide my mouth? Would you guard my lips? Oh Lord, I bend my knee and my tongue will serve you, Heavenly Father, and no other. Thank you, Lord, for your Son, Jesus Christ, who died that we may know eternal life, but may we know eternity here in this moment, Lord. There is no statute of limitations on love thy neighbor. The whole world is our neighbor. We were intended to be one family, Heavenly Father. You gave your life, you gave your blood, and may the covenant of your blood cover us all. I pray, Father, for the eternal soul of Charlie Kirk. I thank you for his sacrifice, and I thank you, Lord, that we have this opportunity to be here in unity, the opportunity for true unity. The opportunity for community.
All right. Good man, Russell.
Opportunity to be different.
That'll do. Thanks, Russell. We get the message. So it's just interesting that they had that. It wasn't the only thing at it, but it was notable that it was, full on jump for Jesus, basically. The God Squad was out in force, and people like Russell Brand, who, probably 10 years ago was probably something, or even less, was more or less an avowed atheist, a bon vivant, a libertine into everything that
A rake.
that conservatives would tend to abhor. And suddenly he's at AmFest praising Jesus.
He was a new agey type Buddhist, we're all one. And God was, he was quite godlike in his talking, but
that was only
undefined. But he had his come to Jesus moment last year. He was baptized somewhere outside Oxford.
Right, after he got accused of rape, right? So
yes, that's why people suspect that.
But even before that, he was very much his new agey stuff was, I wouldn't spirituality, new age spirituality, whatever. But his dominant trait throughout his whole life was that he's basically a libertine.
Yeah.
So an amazing conversion.
Yeah.
And he's at AmFest doing that. So interesting. Not the only thing that went on there. Obviously, Tucker Carlson was allowed back, so it wasn't all bad. Tucker gave a decent presentation. He always does. So it wasn't all, and Tucker wouldn't necessarily be jump for Jesus in the same way we've seen there. He wouldn't be holding up rosary beads or.
Well, no, he also at the start of it, he walks on stage, and yes, there's the hoopla and the show and the things, and he's like, okay, he's like, come on, that's kind of enough now.
Let's have a serious talk here.
Yeah,
let's talk about serious stuff.
Yeah,
not just say Jesus, 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 Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Oh, Jesus, Jesus. And thank you. I have to go now. No, there was also Tulsi Gabbard was there. And she gave interesting talk, actually, but here's just a little snippet of it. This was a breath of fresh air, I'd say. If I had been there, it would have been nice to hear this.
But what I've seen over these months is that every time they make progress and they move closer and closer to that hope for peace, the warmongers in the deep state step up and try to do everything they can to stop them. Predictably, they use the same old tactics that they've always used. The deep state within the intelligence community weaponizes intelligence to try to undermine progress. They leak it to their friends in the mainstream propaganda media to try to spread this and push a false narrative. They foment fear and hysteria as a way to justify the continuing of the war and their efforts to undermine President Trump's efforts towards peace. And do so specifically in this case in order to try to pull the U.S. military into a direct conflict with Russia, which is ultimately what the EU and NATO want.
Harsh words.
We cannot allow this to happen. We have to see clearly what's happening before our very eyes and stand united in this cause of peace.
Some truth bombs being dropped at TPUSA that had nothing to do with Jesus.
Yeah.
Some real spirituality going on there.
Mm-hmm.
If true spirituality has anything to do with truth, then she was probably the most spiritual person in the room.
Well, there's two things that strike me. One is that there you have deep state is commonly used in mainstream conservative platform, and the crowd knows what it is or has a reference to it. But the other one is the tragedy that we don't hear from Tulsi in her first year, except for a few tweets, maybe a few statements in the mainstream. And she finally has a chance here to say something that otherwise there's hardly a pip from her all year long. So it gives you an idea of how kind of cuckolded you are when you're actually in the seat in government. What you can do is limited.
And that was kind of
here finally is a chance to say something, I'm impressed. I actually was primed by the last 3 months, mainly of from, I suppose, Candace Owens is bashing up TPUSA, that this wouldn't happen at all. Something else that happened is actually the first speaker was Ben Shapiro, and he named and trashed certainly Candace Owens and strongly implied Tucker shouldn't be there. I think, I don't know if he named him, but Tucker, very coyly when he came out, he was the second speaker. He said, "So, did I miss anything? I just got here." He was being tongue in cheek, but the crowd laughed because they just heard a rant from Shapiro on speaking the Israel First mantra.
Yeah, he came out
and start deplatforming people.
He came out and used it to say censorship.
Yeah. And then the second guy was Tucker, and he came out to say, "No, didn't we all vote last year not to have that? Isn't that a lefty thing?" Mm-hmm. So kudos to TPUSA. Candace is wrong in her suspicions. She's obviously quite personally affected by the tragedy, and was maybe far too suspicious of the organization as a whole, because the other thing to remember is that the controversy about Tucker Carlson being at these events all summer long was that the Jewish donors wanted Tucker off the platform of this event. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He had appeared at their second biggest event of the year, which is sort of biannual. So in June, he appeared at that one and spoke and said, "Who the hell is Bill Ackman anyway?" And that sparked them. And they said, he better not come back to the next one in December. Mm-hmm. Kirk's taken out, but he's still here. And they placed him right after Ben Shapiro. So, like, it was very balanced overall. You had Megyn Kelly. You also had on the Shapiro-Stein front,
Steve Bannon.
Yeah. Who called Shapiro by name.
Yep.
Referred to him
Tucker
as a cancer.
Mm-hmm. Said he's a cancer and he's metastasizing. He's always been a never Trumper and he's a worm. Mm-hmm. I mean,
on your belly, Shapiro.
On your belly. Candace did that on her show. That's what she would have said if she'd been invited, I guess. So I was surprised by the
freedom.
By the freedom still to
criticize.
Say in the spirit of Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
Open debate.
Well, I think they realize, because, if you listen to Bannon's, a bit of his speech where he's dumping on Shapiro and Tucker as well, when he's critical of Shapiro and Israel stuff. I mean, it's but especially Bannon, who's pretty direct in his criticism of Shapiro. I'd say most of the crowd actually kind of cheered. There might have been a few oohs or whatever, that kind of thing, So it seems that whether it's real or not, or whatever manufactured, it seems that there's the appearance of a split, let's say, in MAGA or TPUSA or whatever, the conservative movement, America First movement, whatever, between those that are America First genuinely, and if that means dumping Israel, then so be it, and others who are basically Zionist, who are the Judeo-Christians, let's say, who actually believe that bullshit about Judeo-Christianity.
Yeah, that auditorium may have been split 50-50-ish, but I think the split is far bigger on the America First side through the movement as a whole, because that's what Kirk was warning about earlier this year. He's talking to these kids
far bigger
at the chapters.
Far bigger in what way? You mean far more anti-Israel?
Yeah, and we got a symptom of it when they do Q&A. That the speakers will answer questions from the crowds, and by coincidence, or did someone in the organization help for that setup? Ben Shapiro was thrown the hottest of the hot ones, which is the USS Liberty. He fumbled his answer. It was total non-answer, There
are a couple of guys on afterwards, or probably some kind of pastor dudes, whatever, who then fielded similar questions, and they were all super pro. They were two Judeo-Christian American pastors, like speaking out of both sides of their mouth. Jesus is, Jesus King. One of them even said, I don't actually have it here, but it was basically in answering to questions from the audience about from people in the audience criticizing Israel or questioning American allegiance or support, or that Israel is America's greatest ally and all that kind of stuff. They just refer to the Bible, and one of them said, Jesus is Lord, and at the end of the day, when Jesus returns, all people will have to bend the knee and avow that Jesus is Lord, and those that don't, be they Gentile or Jews, will go to hell and burn in hell forever. So they say that, but then at the same time, they're apologists for there being in the same talk and the answer to the same series of questions. The same two guys are, big up in Israel, and basically one of them in particular very critical of Islam, saying it's like, religion of Satan and all this kind of stuff, and that we're at war with Islam and have been for 1300 years. The Christians have been, and if you have to choose between Islam and Israel, then you would obviously choose Israel, because Israel is the bulwark against this evil religion of Islam. So, I mean, they're not serious people who say that. Obviously, at least from my perspective, I don't take people like that seriously, because they're ideologues, and I suppose they believe it. They're religious nuts, and I'm not going to argue with them, because there's no point. People can make up their own mind, but obviously much of that religious stuff is entirely false. It's a made up history, at least in the way that they're presenting it. A good example of that is, of course, it's interesting to say that, because these two guys who are, at TPUSA, at AmFest, who are promoting these ideas, and ultimately at the end of it, supporting Israel, defending Israel, and saying fundamentally that, look, Israel should be and needs to be an ally of America, because for political reasons, but also primarily for religious reasons. And like I said, they speak out of both sides of their mouth in a certain sense, because on the one hand they say Christ is king and all that kind of stuff, but they also at the same time refer to Judeo-Christianity.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I don't know, I wouldn't want to get into the specifics of it, those people, and how they actually work that out or whatever, where they believe that Jews that don't recognize Christ as Lord would be destroyed. That's the Christian kind of end times eschatological return of Jesus it's scenario, where the Jews not that necessarily the Jews will be destroyed, but anybody and everybody will be kind of equal opportunity in a certain sense. We're not just attacking the Jews here. It's like when Jesus comes back, if you don't recognize Jesus as king, as Lord, or whatever, everybody and anybody, Jew, Christian, Muslim, Papua New Guinean pygmy, all of them will be sent to hell if they don't recognize Jesus as Lord.
The focus is on Jews, though. It's very intense. I watched a documentary last night called Till Kingdom Come, which gives you a kind of a snapshot. It follows on the Israeli side an Israeli woman who inherited from her father the CEO of a similar type of organization to TPUSA. It's called the International Fellowship of Jews and Christians, and its focus is traveling to the US and getting donations from evangelical churches, big and small, poor and rich, whoever. And it's been building since the early 80s. It kicked off after the Lebanon War in 1983. They realized they wanted support. They needed to keep the US on side, because it was a massive political backlash for the first time against what's going on with these Israelis. Mm-hmm. American support, tanked. That became it's the single biggest donor vehicle of American funds from the public into Israel. It's multi-billion. I think they got 1.5 billion last year.
So it's grift.
Big time.
The Israelis are grifting in America for funds.
Public and private. Big time. And the in they have with the evangelical movement in the US is, on the US side, it was explicitly stated by a pastor in the documentary that, you see, we follow the geopolitics of the situation very carefully, because we read into it the religious prophecy. It's not so much the history they care about, it's what's to come.
Mm-hmm. It's a red heifer.
They're obsessed with the tribulation period. The tribulation period is when the rapture's already happened, and the true believers, y'all are just going to disappear from planes and bathrooms and restaurants, because You're already preordained to be saved. It's the others who are caught in the tribulation. Israel's going to get the worst. 2/3 of Jews in Israel will be killed, and the remaining 1/3 will survive absolute mayhem in Israel. And at that point, Jesus is going to appear on the Temple of the Mount, and all the remaining surviving Jews in Israel, modern Israelis, must bend the knee, or they're going to hell. That is the core. It is consistent. So that's not just one little radical church's take on it. It's the consistency that all the evangelical, an estimated 25% of the US population ardently believes this, rich and poor. That is us. That's been around for ages, and it's been refined and drilled into them. And what fuels that hope for, say, poor Americans in Kentucky and Georgia and Alabama? Well, they're told to carry their suffering. They're told, I know we can't, the world isn't kind to you materially, but these years, don't worry, it's coming soon. It's coming soon. And that's what gives them hope. Literally the opium of the masses. It's what keeps American poor supporting
that they'll be raptured. You're talking about the rapture here.
Yeah.
They'll be raptured, so the true believers who believe in Jesus, the Christians, American Christians who believe in Jesus, will be raptured before the end times, for the worst of it, you know. And it's only after that, like you said, that then Jesus actually returns, after Israel's been hit pretty hard, and then the rest of the Jews will be given a choice, basically.
And it's very clear. One of the pastors interviewed on the American side in the documentary was explicit. We need to arm you guys, give you everything you need for the final battle against, I suppose, the Muslim horde around you. At which point 2/3 of you will die because you don't stand a fucking chance, really, is what he's saying between the lines. So absolutely, we fully support you because we need this outcome.
For Jesus to come back.
And remember, this documentary is actually an Israeli-made one. She keeps out of it. I never see her in it, but we do hear her voice because she asks some of the questions, and you can tell she's like, "Oh my God, what are we dealing with this?" So she goes back to Israel and she interviews Eckstein. That's the surname of the woman who runs this international fellowship, and she says, "Do you never worry about like what they believe happens to us at the end? What's imminent and their rationale for why they support us to the hilt?" And she just smiled at the camera and she said, "Well, that's what they think will happen." When it comes down to it,
an Israeli said that.
Yeah. The woman who has inherited the largest donor vehicle from evangelicals churches to Israel, she just smiled. We'll see. We both have this totally different, totally locked in worldview up to that point. And that's when we'll see. I was like, that's basically the gist of it. The whole obsession with Judeo-Christian, we're all one, same strategy, political, national, religious, it's all one. The fusion has at the center of it this paradox where in this prophecy, when the time comes, we'll see who's right. Yeah, we'll see who's right.
And the Jewish prophecy is that
theirs is very similar. There's a Messiah coming, but he's their Messiah.
But not Jesus.
No, he's the Jewish Messiah.
It's Yahweh.
Mashiach. It's
a golem or something.
It's
a mud creature or something.
It's a. I'm not even sure. I should know that. That wasn't covered here though, because they focused on the eschatology of the Americans.
How do you spell it?
The documentary.
No. The creature that
golem.
Comes back. No, the creature that comes back. Yeah.
Messiah, Messiah. I think it's
just Messiah, just Messiah.
Yeah. I don't think they have such a unified. I think it depends on which Jewish sect. I don't think they have even a. Well, you probably have to check what do the settlers believe, because they're the most evangelical on the Jewish side of Jews. Do they have a unified take on it?
So it's not a specific identified person who's already arrived, but rather a prophesied future human leader who's expected to bring about an era of peace, rebuild the temple in Jerusalem, gather the Jewish exiles, and it's Netanyahu, obviously, and redeem the world through adherence to God's laws.
And Israel will lead the nations, rule the nations. Yeah, Israel will come out on top.
He's anticipated to be a mortal descendant of King David, born to human parents, and serving as a political and spiritual king rather than a divine being or supernatural entity. So just some dude, like. So, they don't have a Messiah. It's some dude,
and geopolitically, Israel is on top. It rules the nations of the earth. So that they're on the surface, it looks like the complete fusion, hence Judeo-Christian, of the two, eternally bound forever and ever and ever. But in fact, they have a future prophecy that's completely contradictory.
So it's interesting. It says, unlike in Christianity, Judaism does not recognize Jesus of Nazareth as the Messiah, as he is seen as not having met the spiritual criteria for the role. The concept emphasizes human agency, ethical living, and collective redemption, rather than individual salvation through the divine Savior. So basically, they don't have a Messiah, and if they do, it's a human person. And so their quote-unquote Messiah is someone who isn't a Messiah at all. In the sense that a Messiah is usually some kind of a spiritual being, some kind of a not, at least non-human or not fully human, some kind of godlike being, unlike Christianity. And Jesus failed to make the cut as the Jewish Messiah, basically because he was too godlike, because he's too close to God. Their Messiah has to be some dude like Netanyahu or something.
Yeah, of the right bloodline, Davidic bloodline.
Yeah, just some dude who will restore Israel and stuff, yada yada. Keep it very general. So I suppose it's much better to keep your prophecies general than that, because then you can fit in events as they evolve into your prophecy. So see, you have your prophecy so open that anything that happens will be fulfillment of your prophecy. But like on that point, this is, so we'll get into Bondi and the aftermath of Bondi, but this is kind of in the aftermath of Bondi, and this is Netanyahu, who basically, well, have a listen to what he says here. It's in line with what we were just saying.
I said, Mike, that we are fighting today the battle that the Maccabees fought. They fought for the survival of the Jewish people and the Jewish faith against an enemy that wanted to extinguish us, wipe us out from the face of the earth. We were fighting our battle, but we were also fighting the battle of civilization. Because our civilization is based on the Judeo-Christian tradition. And if the Maccabees had failed, there'd be no Judaism, there would be no Judeo-Christian civilization. There would be no Maccabees. There would be no United States, there wouldn't be the civilization of freedom
at all,
the respect for our common traditions, our common values. All of that would not happen if it weren't for those 5 brave brothers. They actually made the whole difference. So that spirit animates these brave soldiers that are here today and their comrades who are fighting in Gaza or in Lebanon or in Iran, wherever is necessary to not only preserve the Jewish nation and the Jewish state, but preserve civilization against the barbarians. The barbarians are out there. They did a horrible thing to us on October 7th. They'll never do it again. But they're doing it against Jews in Sydney and Jews elsewhere in America and elsewhere. This is our common battle against the barbarians. We have won it here, we're winning it here, we'll win it everywhere. Chag Sameach, Chag Chanukah Sameach Likulchem. Toda rabba lachem. Toda rabba.
There's some Klingon at the end there. Sounded like Klingon or Ferengi maybe. Anyway,
it makes his voice horrible, gravelly.
Yeah.
Raw.
All of them, yeah.
The
horrible language.
The guttural.
Horrible.
Even when he speaks English.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it sounds like, yeah. But it's very interesting that he basically, like, we Jews are fighting, like he's been saying that the Israelis have been the bulwark or the defender against the barbarian horde, keeping the West safe. We're the front line. Keeping the West safe from the barbarian, didn't say which, but obviously Islamic Muslim horde today. And obviously the Israelis have been saying that for forever. Well, in the modern era, for the whole time that the state of Israel has existed. That's been their shtick. But he extends it back to claiming kind of responsibility for the entire Western civilization. Is that responsibility, or the ownership of that, effectively is Israel's. Because back in the day, if the Maccabees hadn't fought against, I think he,
No,
Amalekites or whatever. Anyway, the Maccabees had defended the Jewish people back in the day, and they would have been wiped out, etc. Whatever. So it's kind of quite a lot of hubris there. No, wouldn't say, Adam. There would be no America.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Judeo-Christian, then there would be no Judeo-Christianity without Israel. So that's a stick, obviously, and that's that's one of the things they've been pushing for a long time, and that's why Judeo-Christianity, that phrase, is very important to the Israelis in America, because it's just a foil for Amero-Israel, Israeli America. America, Israel, trying to make it one word, like we're bound together forever type thing, and we can never separate. And he's just using the religious version of that to push that agenda, which is we need to keep our grift on with in America, getting money from America, getting weapons from America, getting power and influence from America, and exerting and exercising our own power and influence around the world. To a large extent facilitated by the USA. Because otherwise, well, we don't have no power, wouldn't have as much power, wouldn't have much money, so it's all just grift, right? But it just annoys me. The whole Judeo-Christian thing annoys me because I feel sorry for actual Christians in America who have to put up with this bullshit. And I feel sorry for the stupid people who listen to people like those speakers at TPUSA who are talking about how Israel is very important and talk about Judeo-Christianity and stuff, because basically it's right there in the Bible, right? If you're a Christian, the primary book that you use as your reference is the New Testament. Why? And that's why people talk about Jesus a lot. They don't talk necessarily about God so much, but they talk about Jesus, right? Have you brought Jesus into your heart? Have you found Jesus? Accept Jesus. Jesus is King. Christ is King. Christ means Jesus, right? Because Jesus, and more explicitly in the words of St. Paul, which was basically a spokesperson for Jesus, pretty much said that the Old Covenant, i.e. the Mosaic Covenant, given through Moses and the Torah and all that kind of stuff, the law basically was superseded by his new covenant. Jesus came to bring a new covenant, and he basically said, like I said, more explicitly in the words of Paul, that the old covenant is done away with, i.e. Judaism, the law, Yahweh, that kind of thing is obsolete now. And I, Jesus, have come with a new covenant for my people, and this is the one you run with. Like, basically it's version 2.0, right? Supersedes version 1. Version 1 is not going to be, there's not going to be any customer service for version 1 anymore, right? Like there's no customer service for Windows 7, right?
No more updates.
No more updates for Windows 10.
There is neither Jew nor Gentile.
It's only Windows 11 now.
Neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. That's Paul in Galatians.
Exactly.
Those distinctions, the identity politics of your tribe don't become a rendered moot going forward.
Right.
But what we have had instead is a tribe that has persisted with updates in the intervening millennia.
Yeah.
And here we are today.
He basically, like in this again, St. Paul, he was a Jew himself, obviously, but then saw the light. He realized many Jews rejected Jesus, and he claimed because he himself was a Jew, he had the right to speak to Jews and lecture them about how they were going wrong by following this law, basically, which is, the whole Noahide or Mosaic laws and the Torah and all that kind of stuff. And it's all about basically love, Jesus' teaching of love. But yet still many Jews rejected Jesus, and Paul was very unhappy with that, and he tried to save them. Basically, he said, look, you're going down the wrong path. This is wrong. You need to realize Jesus is the way forward. But also one of the things that it did away with was sacrifice, because until then the Jews were giving burnt offerings and sacrifice in the temples to Yahweh, or maybe a few other gods as well, who knows, secretly. But anyway, Yahweh was all, and the older religion, the older Old Testament, I say a lot of it was about burnt sacrifice and all that kind of stuff for the gods, which is obviously not the best thing. And Paul came along and said that's all done away with as well. You don't be burning animals. And neither Jesus nor his Father want any animals to be burned so that the smoke goes up to heaven to nourish him or some shit like that. That's not how it works, okay? Like, you all being a bit materialistic here, you know what I mean? Like, Jesus doesn't eat the smoke of burnt animals in heaven and would starve unless you actually burn them for him on the planet, right? It's animal cruelty. Stop doing it, please. What's wrong with you? That's not the way he said it. That's not word for word what he said, but that was...
I can imagine how it went down. Probably sounded like that.
But what's interesting is that old sacrificial rites, burning of animals stuff, sacrifice in general, sacrifice to a god, something else has to die in order to appease this god, is Judaism. Back then. Of course, Jews don't, as far as we know, don't sacrifice animals to their god anymore. Maybe they do in some caves or tunnels or somewhere where some of them might live.
Well, every year the chickens get it.
Yeah.
There is the chickens, so they keep that. But who
put
knows
your
what
sins on the chicken,
right?
Throw them around,
Right?
beat
Exactly.
them out, and your sins are expiated.
Well, that's from
that's
the
a form of confession.
That's from the Old Testament, and Paul specifically, Jesus specifically came along and said,
"Yeah,
that's done with.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that anymore. There's direct communion with. If you want to absolve your sins, you do it directly through Jesus. You don't need to put them on a chicken, because Jesus doesn't talk to chickens very often, and putting anything on a chicken isn't going to help you. I mean, it's kind of stupid, you know."
Yeah.
If you want your sins forgiven, you talk to Jesus directly, and he will hear your appeal. So the sacrifice thing seems to be obviously still there in Judaism, and it just makes the chasm or the gulf between the two religions all the more clear. But also, okay, widespread sacrifice as it would have been done under the Jews of old during the Roman Empire and before is not practiced so much anymore. But we do see
Different kind
of sacrifices, and that's Netanyahu in the speech we just talked on this talk that he was with Mike Huckabee, and I think he was talking because recently Mike Huckabee he's the ambassador to Israel. No, but anyway, he's talking to him on Hanukkah, basically. I think this was, that's why they have menorah and all that. Anyway, he mentions, interestingly, I don't know if he would use the word sacrifice, but he's talking to, there are obviously soldiers there at that gathering that he's at, and he says soldiers that have been in Gaza. Israeli soldiers that have been in Gaza, who over the past couple of years have, you could say from a certain perspective, engaged in the longest running, large-scale sacrifice, not of animals, but of human beings, to the Jewish God.
Burnt offerings,
literally. But he's referring to those people, not saying that obviously, but referring to those soldiers in the context of trying to say how Judeo-Christianity, Judaism and Christianity are the same thing. And in fact, Judaism is on first and give birth to Christianity and give birth to the United States of America. That without us, the Jews, and what we're doing, what we did then and what we're doing now, which is effectively these burnt offerings, there would be no America. Which is all obviously nonsense because, like I said, actual Christianity in America is based on the teachings and life of Jesus, which is, back in the day, at the get-go, Jesus made a very clear distinction between Christianity and Judaism and said, you Jews need to just drop this whole Judaism, Torah, sacrificial stuff, the law, etc. That's not what it's about anymore. That's gone. It's the new covenant supersedes all of that. So my point is just that Netanyahu is massively full of shit.
That resonates with evangelicals.
But it shouldn't.
I know it shouldn't. The reality is, you remember when Ted Cruz said to Tucker, Tucker, it's simple. Blessed are those who bless Israel, cursed, that's what it says right there in the Bible. He was speaking, that is drilled into evangelicals. That is the number one script. This documentary I watched opened up with the pastor in the small town in Kentucky giving a sermon to youth, kids. You got to understand about the Jews. They're better than us.
Mm-hmm.
the Jews are God's chosen people. They are better than us. You know, like literally making them a souped up Ubermensch. That is ubiquitous, at least in a strong, it's a minority, but it's a strong segment of population of the US.
But my problem, like, I mean, again, for me, it's super simple.
So that's what BB's speaking to. He knows.
I know,
he
but
has
it's for
a
super
captured
simple.
audience.
I know, but he shouldn't have. And if these people were actual Christians, all they have to do is look to Jesus, the words of Jesus and St. Paul. Do you believe in Jesus? If you're saying Christ is King and Jesus is Lord, and you're a Christian, then you can dispense with all the stuff about Israel. I mean, the blessed are those who bless Israel is from the Old Testament. Jesus came along and more or less said that Old Testament stuff, all the stuff, bye-bye, gone. And anybody who adheres to it is not a Christian. So you can't take something that Jesus said, this is to be dismissed, and then
reinserted it.
And then after the fact come and say, no, let's stick the two of them together again.
Yeah.
Like literally,
that's what's
you're
happened.
going against what Jesus led. But how can any Christian with a cursory understanding or knowledge of the Bible or of the New and Old Testament or the words of Jesus or the words of St. Paul, how can they give any credence to Judaism and the Old Testament and Israel and all that bullshit?
These documentaries,
it's not in the book. It's specifically proscribed.
I know.
In the book that they're meant to follow. Like
this Israeli documentary team flew out the Kentucky pastor to Israel, and among other things, got him to meet a Palestinian evangelical pastor, wearing the collar and everything, in a church in Bethlehem. And the guy was saying to him, he was explaining exactly this point to them. Listen, you American evangelicals, you're completely, you've twisted all around. And he's fleshed it out for him, the separation, Paul, it's the new covenant. And the guy, you can see the guy was like, well, I can't take that. And his response was, that sounds like theological anti-Semitism to me.
Theological anti-Semitism? But you're lost. That person's lost.
I know.
That's one of those things where that's why it has to be drilled into people early. Because then it becomes a belief that you haven't really thought about or questioned.
Absolutely.
And so you hold on to it
just that
tightly.
Phrase. Yeah.
And
people are just like, they memorize, and regardless of whether or not they've actually read the Bible or not, they may have read it multiple times, all books, Old and New Testament, but they only remember key phrases. Right? They're not going to memorize the whole Bible, the average person. They're just going to remember key phrases like that one, blessed are those who bless Israel, or blah, blah, blah.
And that's the thing where you would need to take a step back from it. And there was, I think, in the fallout from Charlie's murder, where there was I think maybe it was the pastor that spoke at his memorial, gave a speech somewhere, and I believe it was him, or maybe wherever I saw it, there was someone who's in that circle who was basically saying along the lines of, blessed are those who bless Israel, and here's why we can say that this is not superseded by what Jesus's covenant was. And his point, I believe, also referenced a section of the Old Testament where it says something along the lines of, God never breaks his covenants. And therefore, because God made a covenant with Jews, he's never going to break it. It can't be broken. Even though this is in Old Testament land where there's now a New Testament, and so that doesn't hold any longer.
The only conclusion is that the God of the Old Testament is not Jesus' father.
It's a demon.
Well, who knows what it is, but it's not Jesus' father.
Probably.
I mean, that's the only way to reconcile that idea. You know what I mean? Because obviously, there's a disagreement between Jesus and his father. If you go with that narrative, where
exactly.
They say that God never breaks his
covenant.
It's
either one or the other.
Right.
It's either a new covenant or it's not. Either this new covenant holds or it doesn't.
You have to dismiss some part of
one of these has to go
of the text.
So which is it?
Keep it all together.
Because if it's the part that says Christ is king and everybody is the same, if that's what we have to do away with, then why are we here having this conversation? If it's not that, if it's the other one, if it's blessed are those who bless Israel, etc., if it's that, well, then what are we doing having this conversation?
Yeah. So I haven't actually read enough. I mean, I'm aware of some exegesis of the, biblical exegesis of people looking at all the texts of the Bible and all that kind of stuff, trying to figure out what's what's true or false. Critical analysis of what happened, what didn't happen, is any of it true? I don't know if any, because there's a lot of it obviously that people could look into, and a lot of biblical scholars have looked into different aspects of it, but I'm not aware of anybody. I'd like to know, maybe someone has come to that point of trying to reconcile those two. Maybe they can't, and maybe that's the way they don't do it, but to reconcile the Old and the New Testament, and how you reconcile the two. I think maybe they say, I don't know what they say, or not just reconcile the two, but also reconcile the words of Bibi Netanyahu and stuff, who tries to stick Judeo-Christianity together type thing. Maybe there's some explanation that, like, times are hard back in the day before Jesus came along. God had to be a bit more wrathful and vengeful and all that kind of stuff, but he sent his son down to kind of like try and fix things and all that kind of stuff. So but in that case, then you should go with Jesus, right? You should go with, if Jesus is God's son, then Yahweh's son, then you should go with what? It's his emissary, right? I mean, unless you're going to claim to have direct connection with Yahweh, which probably some people do, to know his mind, whatever, you got to take the word of Jesus as the Son of God, as gospel, right?
Yeah.
What applies, what doesn't,
Yeah.
That's what's being fought over in America.
Yeah.
It's not a spurious question. Like, that is what's being fought over in America. That's what's behind this. Whether or not anybody's actually, these people at TPUSA are actually thinking about that in these terms, if they actually, I don't know. It's weird to see this debate going on, but not know if many people are actually thinking about it in those terms.
It's being articulated most best by Tucker Carlson.
Yeah,
on his show, and occasionally in the speeches.
But he's taking the right approach, which is just to hammer on the St. Paul type of thing. Yeah. Jesus, love, the new covenant, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I don't see anybody, and maybe it's not a good idea to try to do it, but you think Tucker could maybe kind of like have a go at the Old Testament. I mean, it's ripe for that right now. You know what I mean? For him to maybe expand his biblical studies and maybe put something together that would kind of like, support Jesus's new covenant superseding the old one type thing, and maybe he'll get around to it sometime. That would be nice. Like, that'll be a way to, because like for me, that's what's needed right now. Someone needs to make it explicit.
It's the issue that all the rest is built around. The MAGA civil war, the Israel first versus America first. You're just Christian, Christ is King, versus no, you're Judeo-Christian, and we're all one under the same God.
It's so obvious. Like,
it is the elephant in the room. The elephant's taking form. Slowly but sure. It would be nice to have it bashed out. But you see how hard it is. Like Laura, who wrote this like compendium on just those key years of Jesus' so-called life, 30 years. That was really, really difficult to tease out.
Yeah, but I wouldn't necessarily do a deep dive in it, but just take the
theological key points,
the obvious in-your-face texts, and say, look, there's a problem here. You know what I mean? How do you reconcile this? But it's obviously an issue, and it's obviously something that is a very touchy subject for the Israelis, and they know that it is, because, like, how long is it? It's probably a year now since the whole Christ is King thing was deemed to be anti-Semitic. I mean, that says it all right there. Like, when you say Christ, I mean, that if people on social media, or people in American social life or whatever, Christians start saying Christ is King, and Israel firsters or Jews or whoever, of note in America, immediately sense that is a threat.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes very deep very quickly. Like,
the origin of it
implies that they know.
And the origin of it is wrapped up in Charlie Kirk, because it was Candace Owens who first, well, it was the response to Candace Owens that first made that the issue that led to Jordan Peterson and his group publishing a report that Christ is King is actually an anti-Semitic trope. Nick Fuentes has been saying for years, Candace maybe was aware of that, I don't know, but she fired back in a tweet where she just said, look, I don't know who needs to hear this, but genocide is always wrong. She didn't say anything about Israel. Oh, and as a footnote to that, Christ is King. And what she meant, she subsequently explained, all she meant by that was, the truth is the king. What is true. So let's state the truth. Genocide is always wrong.
It's a blending of religiosity.
The reading of that was so paranoid that, oh, okay, that's an anti-Semitic thing on two counts. One, she's saying, without saying it in brackets, Israel. She's accusing us of genocide. And two, she's making that Christ is King statement as well, because it's anti-Semitism on two counts. So that's where
so it's politics and geopolitics overlaid with a religious, with a veneer of religiosity. But it's more than a veneer. It's very interesting that the two kind of converge, or the two are tied up together. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously, you would say that people like Netanyahu and even Ben Shapiro and all those people are being cynical about it, that they're not actually religious. They're not Christians. They're Jews. And if they're demanding, if they see the claim of Christ as King as threatening and call it anti-Semitic, well, we know what anti-Semitism means. It means that that's a threat to Israel and Israel's agenda. So that means that if they're honest, if they actually are religious, believing Jews, well, then what they're saying is, we don't believe in the New Testament. We don't believe in Jesus, and obviously Jews don't. Like I just mentioned that Jesus isn't the Messiah of the Jews, and they're stuck in the old Noahide Mosaic texts and the law and sacrifices and all that kind of stuff, very materialistic, basically, to a God that demands sacrifices, that demands revenge and is wrathful and all this kind of stuff. That's their God. And it's very materialistic. And any Messiah they would have would be very material. It's all very materialistic. Their religion is super materialistic. Yeah. So those people aren't religious at all, to the extent that they're actually just quote unquote religious Jews. Because it's very much, compared to Christianity at least, it's very much immersed in, or infused with materialism, and then that fits with their agenda behind them attempting to push back against Christ as King and all that kind of stuff. It's not a religious debate for them, it's a political debate, and they're focused on keeping American support for Israel for purely personal materialistic reasons, which is geopolitical and political, which fits very well with their materialistic religious beliefs. So it's, on the Jewish side, there is no religion to a large extent when you contrast it with Christianity, Jesus and Christianity. It's Christianity versus materialism. It's
the Americans are supporting Israel's material, geopolitical expansionist project for spiritual reasons, they believe.
Yes, because that's tied into it. That's tied into it, but that could also be manipulation. You could see that as manipulation, like that idea of, that people do this mental gymnastics to come up with a solution, which is, like you're just saying, the evangelicals in America say, we need this, we need to support Israel.
We need this to fulfill our religion.
To fulfill our religious prophecy. But
and they're just a means to an end.
Right. But that's too coincidental, in a sense, that strikes me as being made up by either Israeli Jews, back in the day, 1800s, whatever, who had a plan for the Middle East type thing. It all started around the late 1800s, coincidentally, when oil was first discovered and the Middle East became really important, all that kind of stuff, and then the Jewish project happened. So they're either, those guys are inserted that into the Christian prophecy that Jesus would come back and the Israelis have to be destroyed, and blah blah blah, 2/3 of them have to be destroyed, and that kind of stuff. That all sounds like a very late injection into Christian end times theology, and it was done explicitly for political reasons.
It charts the rise of a Zionist movement, then Israel.
Right. And it's way too convenient to be religious.
The two are almost synced.
Right. It's way too prescient, I mean, it's, you can talk about prophecies, end time prophecies in the Bible and all that kind of stuff, which are all very vague, 7 trumpets and opening of seals and all that kind of stuff, very vague kind of stuff, and no time frame given. But this one, coming out and being, developed or read into the Christian prophecy, end time prophecy, that somehow so coincidentally happened to facilitate the creation of the state of Israel and American enduring support until the very end of Israel, is like, come on, dude, that was done very late. Obviously, it was done very late, and it's for political reasons. It's got nothing to do with religion.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with Christianity.
Yeah.
Or Jesus. Jesus ain't coming back to save.
Oh, but these people believe hard.
Anybody like.
I know. But, yeah. I think what's going on though is Americans are. The spell is breaking.
That's what's interesting about that was what was interesting about the event for me as well, was the sheer amount of pushback that Shapiro and others got at the event, not only from the speakers, but from the people who were doing the questioning, as well as the people who were speaking about the event after the fact. As an example, Daryl Cooper, who does Martyr Made, responded to the bit about the USS Liberty that Shapiro was quoting, and it's like, well, all of the stuff you said was factually and provably, demonstrably untrue.
Shapiro was good at that,
and here's why. And
he's a little liar.
Yeah, he's a worm. He's a worm tongue.
The miniature horse.
With his miniature horse. And when you look at some of the responses on Twitter, and obviously these are not like perfect representations of what people think, but it's the fact that over and over and over again, when I'm looking at my newsfeed and seeing things from Shapiro and from Laura Loomer and so on, and I'm looking at the top responses, the ratio is of likes to comments, of the likes to people's responses to those things. It's overwhelmingly in favor of the people who are critical of Shapiro and what he has to say and what he thinks and what he believes.
Yeah, I would even go so far. The spell has broken. The fever is broken. The youth, I don't think, will be put back into it. Overall, there are still a lot of youth attending mainstream evangelical churches, but at least the ones most engaged in the political arena. So TPUSA is the largest youth organization on earth. Kirk himself was saying, based on what he was doing when he went to each chapter all around the country, the overwhelming response from the kids was that we've got an Israel problem, which means that's reflected that'll easily be picked up in the theological debate as well, whichever came on first. So the spell has broken. We're going to witness the end times. We're going to witness the fallout from that. The tribulation is the fallout of this not working. It's worked so well for 40 years, as Carlson said, but yeah, as soon as the topic was broached, it kind of began to weaken, and it's crumbling, which is why they're resorting to more extreme measures to keep it all together.
Which segues nicely into the aftermath of the Bondi shooting, where Australia is going absolutely bonkers with every kind of like anti-Semitism, hate speech law they can think of.
Yeah, isn't it interesting, just on his point there, just quickly, that you kind of said that it's super weird that like if the end times tribulation, it would ultimately be a result of the machinations of the people who actually believe in an end time tribulation. Basically, they're going to bring it on themselves.
Yes,
they're going to create it themselves, and afterwards, they'll be able to say, "See, it was all true. The prophecy was true. It's like, no, but if you look back at your series of actions over the past few hundred years, everything you did had actually created this situation. Yes, but God was guiding me to do it. Okay, end of story, end of argument. See you later.
But that's what I mean. Like all of the things that they're doing, not just in Australia though, but it's also happening in the UK as well.
Because of anti-Semitism, to a large extent.
Because of anti-Semitism.
Which is because of Israel's actions.
But that's the thing, is like...
But you're not allowed to say that.
The doing
it's because of the recognition of Palestinian state by the Australians. That's what caused it.
In part, yeah.
So that's what they're saying, but really, like, okay, so there's obvious issues. There's obvious problems that need to be addressed, that need to be discussed and talked about openly. And in the case of what Tucker was saying about, killing innocent people is fundamentally antithetical to everything that a Christian believes. And so when you look at what's going on in Gaza, then you see, well, he's right. And so that's something that we need to actually talk to and deal with. And when you are stopped, when you're prevented from talking about it in the ways that the UK and Australia now as well are trying to prevent that from happening, well, what do you think is going to come from that? When there are obvious problems that everyone can see, you're trying to brush it under the rug, but nevertheless, the problems exist and they are there and people see them. But your attempt to brush it under the rug and then clamp down on anyone who's asking the questions is only going to make it worse.
Ironically, it's also going to make the prophecy come true. What I mean by that is, if you strip away the very fixed terms that's been come to understood, and the subtext of what the prophecy is that a time would come when the truth would become king. And where does someone stand on the truth? So this is why it's bigger than Jews versus Christians. It's the tribulation is here. It's for everyone. Those who follow the law or love are those who embrace the truth of what's going on, and those who want to uphold the grift and lock it down and enforce authoritarian measures to keep the status quo. So this is where the evangelicals, you feel a bit sorry for them because they kind of jumped the shark, and they got very fixated on the specific manifestations of how the end times will come. But actually, the general elements are all there. But they become they've become taking it far too literally. That Jesus Christ is an actual person, come back and and this corresponds to these characters in the Old Testament, and this is, but they have the elements. They have lots of wars and rumors of wars, lots of natural disasters, and they obsess over the sequence in which they'll come. But they're more or less right. A lot of these things are happening, but the subtext, if you remove the religious names and terms, the general times we're living in is indeed. We say this all the time. When an event happens, this is a litmus test. Well, who's it being set by? Well, God, reality. Something happens, and what does someone see in that event? Do they see it this way? And it broadly falls into two ways of seeing it. There can be a spectrum of conspiracy theories, but it generally comes down to two perspectives. So which one you see / choose it determines where you are coming under in this prophecy. Man, these guys don't see that. I think that I can see what they're missing, because they're so focused on exact names and terms and matching them with Revelation 7 said this. Okay, this is happening now. But in general, the prophecy is they are making real the prophecy, but they actually are. Most of them can't see it. They're missing. They're obsessed with that's the other thing. Sequence and details and. Anyway.
The famines and the wars and rumors of wars and all that. How much of that is due to the things that your governments are doing deliberately? Most of it, well, actually.
Yeah, and people should look at that, because it's kind of like, imagine you on an individual level. imagine imagine saying after you're born, whatever, when you're young or something, whenever you're old enough to read, somebody gives you a book and say, here's how your life's going to go. And whatever about the interim years, whatever, the end result is, some kind of a major disaster for you involving a war, you in a war, or a war of one, or some kind of personal cataclysm, let's say. And that's the prophet. No, that's prophecy. There you go. And then what you do is you proceed to act in ways, anticipate that being the case, and seek to fulfill that. Why would you seek to fulfill that? It's because, like, Armageddon, the wars of Armageddon, the wars of the end times, and the destruction, and families, brother fighting against brother, and families divided, and all this kind of stuff. If you saw that your actions were, playing into that, actually, you were actually playing along with this pretty negative prophecy for your life, why would you not just go, let's not do that?
Well, the ones who take actions are convinced that they're saved, that their role in this drama, the final destination, they're saved.
But do they not care about the rest of the world or whatever?
No, because they won't. They must come to Christ, because they're with me, and they were saved together.
So they all want to go to heaven, basically. They all want out of life. So it's like someone who actually hates their life and wants out of it.
Yeah.
And there's a promise that at the end of your life, you'll be raptured up to heaven to live with Jesus forever in bliss and eternity on the cloud.
But you must follow the sequence. That's why. So
you have to bring on.
That's why Christianity has long been very Judaized, because you must follow the law. There's a very strict sequence to the prophecy. The very strict things you must do in your life, and one of them every week, every Sunday, is pass a donation, no matter how poor you are. That is explicitly in most evangelical churches sent to Israel. That's just you just do that. There's no ifs and buts. You just do.
So we have to send this to Israel to big up Israel, to increase its power and its influence in the Middle East, so that it's capable
to bring on Armageddon.
It's capable of having a war that may cause global destruction.
Yeah,
but it's all good because
it's God's doing.
It's going to happen anyway. We little people have no agency here. Yet we're instrumental in making it happen, because we're actually sending money to it. What if you just decided, like, you know what? That's not, God, I don't really like your plan, the whole thing. And maybe we should just, wing it or reinterpret the biblical text in some way where that doesn't happen and we all go to heaven anyway. I mean, is that really required, the whole destruction and Armageddon and, fighting against families?
That's a good point. You could do it. You could do it two ways, right? Where if you're looking at it from the evangelical perspective, you can look at, how do I get everybody to come to Jesus? You can look at it there's two avenues for it in front of you. One of them is to fulfill the end times prophecies, because then Christ is going to come again, and the Lord shall reign over all the earth, blah, blah, blah. The other one is to be Christ to your family, to your friends, to your neighbors.
Make it happen now.
And make it happen naturally now.
Through you.
Through me. Well, through God via me.
Working through you, yeah. But they would probably say, well, we can't do that because evangelicals obviously would say they can't do that because you can't divert or subvert God's law. God decided that this is the way it should happen, so we have to just run with it. But then that brings up the question of, well, what kind of God is that? It's obviously all of that essentially because Jesus didn't say much. Well, Jesus kind of did, but all of the references in the New Testament, it all refers to, it's all Old Testament stuff. All the end times.
Well, no, it also takes revelation. Revelation is a big part of it. It's the mix. It's a specific mix of old and new. And the Scofield Bible was a big part of this, which was interpreted,
but through a Judeo-Christian lens.
Yes. So it's a mix.
Speaking as someone who lived through this brainwashing, the thing that's missing is the understanding of the geopolitical situation on the earth as it is. Like what's really going on. It's not like all of these things are just happening and it's unavoidable. It's a clash of civilization. It's just, you can't help it. It's unavoidable. That's really how it feels. That's really how you feel, is that there is no way to avoid the end times prophecy because it is what's going to come. And there's no way around it.
Okay.
As opposed to stopping, thinking about how all the things that our governments are doing that are actually making this situation that's going on,
but
and knowing that it is not, in fact, unavoidable. In that sense.
The thing about Revelations is that Revelations, more than any other book in the New Testament, draws heavily from the Old Testament. That is all Old Testament stuff. That is all Yahweh. Anything destructor, destroyer, death, war, pestilence, vengeance, all that kind of stuff is all ultimately Old Testament stuff, which is Jewish stuff, which is materialistic stuff.
Yeah, this is where I don't go too hard on evangelicals, because the whole Bible became a minefield over the millennia. Paul's message, Paul didn't end up writing the Bible. I mean, he wrote his letters. That's what survives.
That's the core of it.
It's the core, but it takes some work to get the correct exegesis from the overall book to arrive at that, I think, because it's a minefield of awesome truths, things you can immediately resonate and see and go, yeah, that's a timeless piece of, a pearl of wisdom. I can see that apply in my life and others. But then next page or next chapter, it's like you're thrown back into, the archaic bibliospeak. You know, that tone that much of the Bible is written in.
Yeah.
Was made up at the time to make it sound old at the time.
Yeah.
But people now assume, that's Bible language. And then you see when they get up on stage, the kids, they try to imitate that speaking in tongues. That was horseshit at the time.
Right.
Yeah. Like with
so that's one rule of thumb when you're reading passages. It should be clear, straightforward. There should be no gobbledygook. There should be no confusion. It should be quiet.
Exactly, but it can be, like you're saying, it's very involved and all that kind of stuff and complicated and stuff. But there is a line of force that divides the New Testament from the Old Testament, a very clear one, and you can just run with that. Because most people aren't going to become biblical scholars and spend years of their life kind of like involved in critical analysis of biblical text and all that kind of stuff. So what's left to you, and that most people live their religious lives, in very broad strokes anyway. So you can do that with the division between the Old Testament and the New Testament and see that they're clearly, explicitly said, more or less, particularly by St. Paul, that they're two different. It's night and day.
Yeah.
That old thing gone. The Judaic law and sacrifices and all that kind of materialistic aspect, which it literally was just a materialistic religion, in the sense of burning sacrifices to it's similar to all the other old pre-Christian religions that were around the world, a lot of them, which were all just very basic, like, fear-based worship of a scary, vengeful God who demanded animal sacrifices and, in some cases, human sacrifices to appease him. And Jesus came along and said, and that's his father? You joking me? Like I said before, like, he fell very far from the tree. Like, there's a real family disagreement there, you know what I mean? Like, between the two of them. Like, if Jesus was alive today, he would be in therapy. He would be in family therapy, like, and there would be no chance of reconciliation. Like, he would say, look, my dad was just an asshole, and I'm never speaking to him again, because I don't believe anything.
He's a narcissist.
Yeah.
He's a psychopath.
Right. Yeah.
He's murderous.
Right. Yeah.
He's everything that I do not want to be.
Yeah, exactly. So white people can't just go with that, but people are lost. Yeah. Anyway, we got off there on that Bondi. So Netanyahu jumped at the opportunity, almost as if it was set up for him to do so. Although, of course, he'll see any opportunity to demand, like you said, that Australia in this case, but countries around the world take note. This is because you haven't heeded my warnings. I've given you warnings before. How many more warnings do you actually need? Do you need me to? I mean, sorry, I'm phrasing that wrong. It's not. I'm not saying that I know you may interpret because I literally said, "Damn it, wake up! You don't need any more warnings. You've already received enough." Now, I'd like as Netanyahu would like to rephrase that, because that could be interpreted that the shooting in Bondi Beach was a warning from Israel. Anti-Semitism, blood libel, whatever. This is...
Oh, he did actually say, damn it.
Play.
And I say now to the Australian government, damn it, wake up. You don't need any more warnings. You've already received enough.
There's two ways to interpret that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily go with one or the other, but the point is he's obviously leveraging it to say, and the end result is then that, like you mentioned, what's his face?
The Australian PM Albanese
goes full bore. Nobody's allowed to say anything anti-Semitic.
Well, it's
ever again.
Hate
speech laws, basically.
But there was another
ushering in hate speech laws.
It looks like it might be from the same speech or interview or whatever it was that Netanyahu was giving. There was another section that I thought was very interesting. If you just scroll down to hear him actually say it explicitly.
That one?
Just imagine if you had on that beach, on that Hanukkah gathering, if you had several armed people, several armed guards, 10, 15, even 5, it would be over. That's what we've seen time and again in Israel, time and again. And that saves the day. And I think that's required right now. The world has changed. Recognize the change.
So basically what he's talking about is having
Israeli
armed guards
police your people for you,
policing the Jews in every country in the world,
and policing the non-Jewish population of every country in the world, right?
Well, I mean, they're acting as armed guards for the Jewish populations in all these various countries. Now, whether or not he's talking about actually having, because they don't have the population to be able to do that. So really what it would be is like, we need you to send your police to Israel so we can train them and brainwash them, and then send them back to protect the diaspora.
Basically, in that speech about Bondi, he said Australia caused anti-Semitism by recognizing the Palestinian state. Now, of course, that's
a non sequitur.
It's not really plausible, because any rational person would say, well, just taking this on face value, if two Pakistani guys who are Muslims decide to attack a bunch of Jews in Australia, it comes right on the heels of more than 2 years of Israel slaughtering Palestinians, slaughtering Muslims in Gaza. So Occam's razor would say probably, what's on first is the anger, because when he says Australia caused the anti-Semitism, i.e. the shooting, by recognizing Palestinian state, no. If that is the case, then you're putting the cart before the horse. Is Australia recognized a Palestinian state because of what Israel was doing to Palestinians, and what Israel was doing to Palestinians is what caused people to be angry, and then caused potentially these two guys to go and kill some Jews. So the solution isn't to stop anybody saying anything bad about Israel. It's for Israel to stop doing bad things. It's like I burn down my neighbor's house, and then I get arrested and abused for it. And the solution is, look,
to keep you locked up or under watch forever.
No, I burned down my neighbor's house, and the solution is to stop persecuting me, because that's bad.
And also
maybe you should stop burning down all people's houses, and then we won't have to persecute you.
Yeah.
At one of the press conferences that they've given since the event, the Australian, I believe it was the PM, was asked directly, "What do you think is more of a threat? What are you, or do you feel like radical Islam is the biggest threat to Australia?" And he says, "No, I think it's the far right.
Yeah,
I think it's the neo-Nazis."
right. Yeah.
And in the wake of this particular incident, it's a very strange response.
Yeah. Well, that's Christ is King, right?
But it just, like, I bring it up only because it reveals their hand.
It's nationalism. The whole world is being consumed effectively by nationalism from Israel.
Yes.
Not consumed by nationalism from Israel, but nationalism and nationalistic ideologies and
Israel's far right, especially
politics. No, but around the world, everybody ultimately is people are feeling that they need to reestablish their own independence, national independence, because they sense that there's very little national independence in the world, in the specific country or in countries today. And I'm not saying it's only this, but obviously one aspect of it is stuff that Netanyahu has just said there, where he wants to, where he's demanding that countries around the world. He's saying this to Australia, but he said, like, he's saying, he actually said other countries as well. We saw the thing where, like, wake up, you need more examples, do what we tell you to do, Western governments must act according to what Israel expects, or terrorism will consume you as well. If there's any meat behind that statement, and like there's pressure being put, well, that implies a very direct subversion of independence, and therefore nationalism, true nationalism. Independence is necessary for true nationalism. A subversion of that in countries around the world. If that kind of pressure is being put on other countries by the state of Israel, and that produces a backlash in these countries where people start to feel that and go, look, we need to take back the reins of our country. From who? They're still struggling to who it is. Is it America? Is it Israel? Is it whoever? But there's a clear example here of pressure being put by the state of Israel, by the Prime Minister of Israel, on countries all around the world who must change their policies and do what Israel tells them to do. Up to include, like, very specific things, like things that directly infringe on people's freedoms, which is hate speech. You're not allowed to talk. Literally, you have the Prime Minister of Israel telling Western countries, but probably countries all over the world, that you need to police the thoughts and speech of your populations, or else.
And then
people hear that and go, hang on, we're not independent anymore, and that gives rise to the quote-unquote far right, i.e. populist nationalism.
And then
that
tell everybody who notices it, anyone who sees this speech from Netanyahu and realizes what he's saying, calling them anti-Semitic for simply noticing that he does in fact seem to have some sort of power and control over their country.
Which is to be outlawed. Right. For you to say.
And you're not allowed to say it.
But you're not allowed to say it, which then just reinforces...
It reinforces their ideas that they're not independent, and they have to, and the far right, the quote-unquote far right nationalistic populist politics has to be clamped down on all the more. So it's like, it's a zero-sum game. It's going... it's spiraling downwards, like, it's like basically abuse of the global population right down to what they can think and say publicly. And when those people complain about it, you demonize them. And then they get more worked up. And then you demonize them more. And then they get more nationalistic and you demonize them more. And boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Where does that end?
We have to wait for this shoe to drop. So it's going to happen somewhere first. It could be Australia. It may be the US. It would be ideal for Netanyahu if it happens in the US first. In May of 2024, the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act was first brought to the floor in the Congress in the US. That's been updated into Anti-Semitism Awareness Act 2025. It was rewritten this year. If you go on the congress.gov website, they have a tracker for what stage it's at. It's still in the first phase, so it's been placed on the floor. They won't bring it to a vote. Obviously, the time it comes to a vote, it's because it's ripe and you think it will pass. So it's on hold. But basically, what it shares in common with legislation that's in the cards in Australia is accepting and codifying into law the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of anti-Semitism, which conflates criticism of Jews with Israel. This is where the rubber hits the road, and this will be, if they can get this in one, they can get this in others. But we haven't quite hit that threshold. I think
it's
if you were conspiratorial, this was maybe hoped to push it over the edge in one exemplar of the Five Eyes. We're not there yet. But
you know what's interesting is that they can use those intimidatory tactics and make an example of people and passing hate speech laws, and no anti-Semitism, nothing that even has a whiff of anti-Semitism is allowed to be said. And interestingly, along with that, obviously, at the same time, you've had a lot of hate speech laws. Like in the UK, for example, people aren't just being arrested or investigated or whatever for saying things that are supposedly anti-Semitic. It's against any minority, speaking your mind in any way. You know what I mean? So it's it's having a broad scale effect. It's not, we can't just focus too much on, they're stopping you saying bad things about Israel or the Jews. They're trying to stop you saying anything because it follows in the heels of the whole microaggressions and offensive speech, and someone's feelings got hurt over the past 10 years. You know what I mean? So the two seem to be part and parcel of the same thing, Ultimately, it's about suppressing people's ability to express themselves freely, express what they think. Now, that's a losing game, because you're going to get very few people who actually accept that and say, yes, it's right that I'm not allowed to say the things that I think.
I don't like thinking.
Or I don't think those things anyway, so it's okay.
I've nothing to hide anyway.
Yeah, I don't, But a lot of people don't like that, because they can see with their eyes that, like Gaza and stuff, they should be able to criticize Israel, but you're not allowed to. Shut up or you're going to prison. Those people, which I think would probably be a majority of people, to the extent that they actually participate in these kind of things, if only in their own minds, those people will just go quiet. And what's the goal for the people who are doing this? Well, it's to get away with whatever agenda they have. They want to, because obviously we're talking about abuse of power and egregious acts by, specifically in this case, the State of Israel. So they don't like people speaking out against that, so they shut them down and under threat of prosecution, to allow, in this case, the State of Israel to continue to do, because it wants to do more of those things. That's what you have to assume, right? If they were done, they wouldn't worry about, okay, we're done with all the bad stuff now. We don't mind if you say anything. So they want to do more, but people are just going to go quiet and then just sit back and observe it all. But you can't take people's thoughts in that way. These people don't realize that just by suppressing, like if they stop me saying something, saying what I think about Gaza, and I actually stop saying it, I'm not going to stop thinking it.
I know.
I'm not going to stop talking about it privately.
But this is where materialists don't understand humans.
You mean the non-human intelligences?
Yes, it really is. And so what's in it for them? Well, if you step out from just the apparently narrow issue of conflating criticism of Jews, Jewry with Israel and Israel's wars, you've got the status quo, especially in Western countries, don't take Europe. What's going on now in the mindset of the countries that we suspect have had to rig elections to so far hold power? Well, they're paranoid. They see barbarians at the gates. For them, it's not Muslims, though, at the walls of Jericho. For them, it's the peasants.
Terrified people, yes, they're ordinary people of the country.
So Israel's, but Bibi's saying there when he says, y'all in civilization depend on us, I think the sync up is your regime and your issue domestically with the rise of the populist far right is the same as ours, because kind of below the subtext of the official ideologies, what they share is psychopathy, and we need to keep together, bonded globally a regime that keeps them all quiet, passive enough politically that they don't actually try to challenge our power. So I suppose that's the shared interest in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're all. That's why they find the common cause. Yeah,
and the working of this, the working on Australia, this didn't come out of the blue. I mentioned it last week. Last year, there was a wave of anti-Semitism in Australia, and they were benign from spraying swastikas on buildings to arson attacks to.
There was a couple of bombings just this year.
No, they found. That's what I mentioned. The caravan plot. They found explosives. Then realized they were never going to go off. Then did actual police work and saw that they were fake. Then they found that it was an organized crime ring, like petty criminals. They caught a couple. And then they suspected they were getting funding from abroad. And that's where the trail went quiet. Anyway, in the intervening period, Albanese named a special envoy to combat anti-Semitism, a Jewish lawyer from South Africa called Jill Siegel. And she published a report in July this year with 20 main points and recommended that the Australian government implement them all. The key thing that holds the report together is the codification in law of that definition of anti-Semitism, equating it with criticism of Israel. And Albanese went, okay, not doing it for now. And that's when Netanyahu was giving warnings in the summer. And then in the sequence, what happened? He got a warning. He got a very specific warning that wasn't even to do with Netanyahu said he issued a warning in an open letter to Albanese in August, saying that we expect you to do something about the wave of anti-Semitic attacks in Australia by Rosh Hashanah, which is Jewish New Year. Why such a specific date? Anyway, 10 days later, Australian intelligence announces, 2 of those attacks from last year, we found where the foreign funding and direction of the local hoodlums who were spraying swastikas and planting fake bombs, they came from Iran. I think Albanese hoped that this would appease Netanyahu, but
not good enough.
Not good enough. And it's funny, I don't know if it's the same thing that you two clipped from, but elsewhere he was going ranting this week, Netanyahu, about appeasement. He was saying it in the context of appeasing the Hamas terror state by recognizing Palestine, but appeasement, he projects a lot, because what's actually going on here, the dynamic over the last 12, 18 months of Australia trying to pacify Israel and the Jewish lobby is, okay, is that good enough? Because Australia took some concrete action. They expelled Iran's ambassador on the back of this dodgy intelligence report in late August. We're used to that now because it's happened a few times between the US and Russia, but that was the first time Australia has expelled an ambassador. They expelled the ambassador to Iran. The first time they've done that to any country since World War II. And I think he hoped is that, good enough? Well, here we are now. There's been a Bondi Beach massacre. And now that report that Albanese went, thanks, we'll think about it, is all over the Australian news. And he's feeling the pressure to actually make a legislative act that would really, it includes like mandatory prison sentences for anything smacking of anti-Semitism. The criticism of Israel is criticism of Jews/Jewish communities. So that's off the cards. Bondi Beach as well. Bondi Beach has been such a big public place. It's been, at one point they were having weekly protests pro-Palestine. Yeah. It's become synonymous in the Australian mindset in the last 18 months with pro-Palestine voice. That's gone now without any codification in law. They had a memorial ceremony there this week. Lots of Jews came to, obviously, funerals and then a memorial at the beach. Police snipers all over the place.
Yeah. So they try. It's crazy. In
the end, I thought this years ago, and I think in the end, they, as mad as they seem and as unlikely as it seems that they're going to actually get there in the end. They really are on a path to make the world in Israel's image. While ranting at Albanese this summer, Netanyahu kept referring to the US and how good they've been since 9/11. You should be more like the US, militarized police, do as Trump's doing, crack down hard on the campuses and stuff. Actually, this Jill Siegel, that Albanese, she in her report, she proposed that she become basically a moderator, not for online content, but for anything the universities may say, with the ability to pull funding of Australian universities that either hold protests or platform people who are critical of Israel and stuff like that.
So mentors. It's weird the way, like I said earlier on, the way the whole, DEI, microaggressions, all that kind of stuff, preceded all of this. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't go very far, but black rights activists in the US talking about mentors, that white people need a mentor to shadow them around and highlight their unconscious racism. You know what I mean? Because when you just be talking during the day, you'd say something to a friend or something like that, and your black mentor would be standing beside you listening, and then they'd say, "Oh, see what you said there?
Yeah,
it doesn't appear to be racist, but if you think about it, it's got some racist undertones in it, unconscious." So I just wanted to highlight that for you. So what you just described there is kind of the same. It's like online mentors, mentoring us all online. You know what I mean? Because obviously you can't do it individually, too many people, right? But online speech, you need someone to monitor and correct and check online speech to make sure it's not offensive to the Israelis, or not to even the Jews, but to ultimately to the Israeli government and its agenda. That's what's in danger of being offended. So people waking up or noticing enough and stopping, and as a result, the Israeli government being unable to continue to do what it has been doing for so long. I just find it weird that that whole thing
preceded this.
Like,
it's all
offensive speech and all that kind of stuff segued into.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so Ben Shapiro, he's like a right wing, anti-DEI, anti-left, radical lefty stuff, but he's basically, and I think Tucker Carlson actually said that specifically because it's exactly the same, really. I would somebody say that to him, make that a reference back to the suggestion about black mentors following white people around to highlight their unconscious racism. Maybe Ben would like Jewish mentors to follow guys around every day to highlight their unconscious anti-Semitism.
Well, in Congress, an AIPAC guy follows every single congressperson, except, is it Massey and two others or something?
Yeah.
I mean,
just a handful.
It's quite literally the case in some respects.
Yeah. What about Candace Owens? We won't go too deep into it or whatever, but people are rounding on her and stuff, and it's obviously, I don't give much credence to that because it's like, oy vey, shut it down, right? She has to be stopped, and there's shekels to be handed out for people who are willing to do a pile-on top of Candace. But what's his face? Alex Jones, of all people, you think? Is this an example of the last column has fallen? Like, have a listen to Alex here.
As most of you that pay attention know, I am not the internet police. I don't infight. I don't try to focus on what other people are theorizing about or doing. I try to focus on what I'm doing. And so it's with a heavy heart that I am forced to put out another
do what
report,
I don't do.
Either tonight or tomorrow morning. We're adding a lot of information right now, a lot more research, dealing with Candace Owens. Just as soon as the whole Egyptian plane thing gets debunked with all the facts, now she's moved to something else, and I'm really worried about her. I'm worried about her and her mind, and I'm also worried about the country and where this is going. It's good to question Charlie Kirk's assassination. I have big questions. We know Cash Patel covered up an investigation into accomplices. I broke that before it hit the mainstream news. So I'm not saying don't question. But her latest source and what she's done, implicating the U.S. military and all this other stuff, is just so damaging. And when you go investigate it, it's so crazy. And just like with the Egyptian plane, she says she has the metadata. Then publish it. And when she did publish it, and it got fact checked, it wasn't accurate. Candace, we care about you. But you just doubled down again with something even more absurd. And I hate watching you destroy yourself like this. We'll be covering it all with the reports coming out at Real Talk Shows on X, on Rumble, and Infowars.com.
Through the bullhorn. God bless you all. So
when Alex Jones moves to the center, you know you're in a crazy times.
How many shekels did that cost? You know, but because his problem there was U.S. military against Sacred Cow, right? It's like, oh, shock, horror. Someone suggests that some elements within the U.S. military may have been involved in a major, high-profile public assassination in America. Unheard of. I mean, why is that some kind of sacred cow for Alex Jones, like U.S. military? Because his son's in the military, or he's got friends in the military, and the military is sacrosanct. You cannot say a word. It's like how obtuse do you have to be? Like, does he? Surely someone like him knows of these ramified networks and all that kind of stuff. And when you implicate, if you suggest there was a military plane or it landed in a military base and the Egyptian planes, whatever Candace Owens is putting together, if it in some way implicates maybe the U.S. military, big deal.
Yeah,
of course it probably would. You know,
of course it would.
Any Israeli kind of infiltration or networks within the US are going to be within the military, and the military is going to be compromised in that respect. But he takes that as like, oh, she's lost the plot, and that's the only thing he mentions specifically in terms that you can read from what his beef is, why he's worried about her. He says when you start implicating the US military.
There was a second one, in fairness, but on the military, this is the guy.
What was the other one?
At the very end, I don't know. I haven't checked the checking of it, but people have looked at the data, her raw data for her claims that the Egyptian planes sync with Erica's events and or Charlie's arrivals in certain cities, and that they don't sync up as well, nowhere near as much as she was saying.
But he said that in general, like just basically, you know, she's wrong on these different things. But the fact that he mentioned specifically the US, when you implicate the US military, that's a problem. That was obviously his main beef in that.
Yes,
because and the other thing is, like, you're talking about anybody who knows. I mean, if you're open to the idea that Charlie Kirk was assassinated not by Tyler Robinson,
then anything's possible.
Well,
not anything, but
no, but it immediately opens it up into a big conspiracy.
Yeah,
and the chances, if you are aware of conspiracies like JFK, hello, RFK, hello, going back 60 years, when these public assassinations are carried out by, obviously, if you're going with the conspiracy angle, state actors, well then these people are very well trained and versed in doing this. They've got 60 years or more of experience of doing it. They are basically untouchable, and they're very good at covering their tracks to, you know, at least not being found out. Not necessarily covering their tracks in terms of making it all go away, but they're not being access to the actual truth, the hard facts. So does he not know that?
He's such a
because how then, if he does know that, how then can he pull her up on not having the slam dunk smoking gun evidence?
Yeah,
where's the smoking gun evidence for the assassination of JFK? If I put together all the different theories and all the different allegations about the assassination of JFK, none of it's smoking gun.
Yeah.
Does that make me a crazy person and you're concerned for my mental health, Alex? I mean, this is still just 3 months old. This assassination could and should be investigated and talked about and written about in books in the same way that the JFK assassination was.
Yeah.
People are still writing books about the JFK assassination with new information 60 years later. So 3 months later, he's going to dismiss Candace Owens for diving deep into it and pulling as much evidence as you can. And okay, some of it's going to be false leads or go nowhere. And he's going to go, oh, I'm really worried about you. And you actually went as far as implicating the US military. Shock, horror.
The smoking gun, the lack of a smoking gun is the smoking gun.
Right.
That what you're being told is bullshit.
Well, because there's no smoking gun to implicate Tyler Robinson.
Well, that's what I mean. Because there's no smoking gun there, and there's not. That's the reason why. Well, we've got to do it ourselves because obviously someone doesn't want us to know what's actually going on.
Right.
And obviously there's going to be people who are trying to obfuscate the truth, send people down false paths, false leads, throw in red herrings and all that.
Right.
So
how many shekels?
So is it really that surprising? And also with with the U.S. military being sacrosanct, as you said, Alex has talked about the deep state and the things that the deep state has done.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he's talked about regarding the deep state is foreign wars. Now, Alex, what does it mean when there's foreign wars where our military is involved that was done at the behest of a deep state? Does that mean that maybe the military could be compromised?
NORAD 9/11 dipshit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. The 2 U.S. Air Force generals we now know flew out to France to meet some spook to express that back in the Pentagon we're thinking of what to do about this JFK character. I mean, he's always, it's even when I was just in my early 20s, starting out in this, and I started out on his documentary, his DVDs he'd come out with every half year. It was like, oh, the latest Alex Jones DVD. But even as I'm watching, I'm going, I get what he's talking about. There's black helicopters, there's black ops, there's evidence of clandestine and probably nefarious military activity taking place in the United States. He would always frame it and characterize it as the UN military. The UN's in here. There's Czech troops up in this town here in northern Texas, or there's Russians made by Chinese. Dude, if there's some of them, it's more likely you're on. But it was always so odd. The UN military's here.
Because it's the American mythos that they're all born, brought up on, they're fed, they're sucked, they're weaned on, basically. I Pledge of Allegiance. And all that.
He's got that, and the other sacred cow is Israel. Yeah. And that's him. That's his evangelical thing. It's probably his youth. And those guys, they came to, well, he wasn't that young then, but the stuff he was reading was written in the 70s and 80s. They were bred on, and they got fixated on the Trilateral Commission, the Behold a Pale Horse conspiracy book, and those things, it touched on organized Jewry and Israel a bit, but they were so sure it was something much bigger than that and all encompassing, So whenever they hear the kids focus on an Israeli angle, something, it's like, for them, it's like, that's such a narrow focus, Oh my God, you're just trying to make everything. There's a meme about him now where he's like ranting about everyone being obsessed with the Jews. Jews. All I hear is about the Jews. It's much bigger than that. So I think is it money?
I don't think so.
I think he genuinely has a conceptual misalignment. He's so fixated on where he's come from that he's not keeping up with the times, with the shifts, and what the actual evidence, what the actual apocalypse, the unveiling is showing. He's still got his idée fixe about things. So
I'd have to go back and find the things specifically, because he has said some things that were anti-Israel of late.
Yeah, even right after 9/11, he's suspected.
So this strikes me more not as like, him getting shekels or him getting the call, but him like Nick Fuentes and like Ryan Dawson and others who are right about so many things.
Yeah.
But when it came to this specific event,
Kirk
just went right over their heads.
And it's so, the evidence is so overwhelming, like, for anybody looking at Charlie Kirk, just looking at the video. The t-shirt blows up. Therefore, something inside his t-shirt blew up. And there's a country that has history, past form, on tinkering with similar-sized devices, communication devices, and turning them into weapons.
And gloating about it. It's not like it was on mainstream news.
Gloating about it.
And then appearing on CBS in a balaclava and a voice, distorter and saying, yeah, this is how we did it with the pagers. Yeah. We do this all the time. We create realities and you all just ha ha ha. And it was literally on TV news last year.
And all of these three guys that I mentioned, they were questioning Candace when she was talking about Charlie and his change of heart and his decisions to change his positions and so on. They were very much like, you're crazy, you're full of shit, you were lying. And what we know now is that we've got the people from Turning Point that was in the group calls or like the group texts that confirmed what Candace was saying.
Mm-hmm.
So time to upgrade your software there, guys.
I think, she's just, she just sets some people off the wrong way. The thing is, she's become a lightning rod for asking questions and truth about Kirk's assassination. But I will never forget that before she started her series on this, the crowd on, at least that we saw on X, rapidly pieced together contextual evidence. They still hadn't named Tyler Robinson, but 3 days there, maybe it began on 9/11 itself, so people were reflecting on that event while taking in the shock of what had just happened to Kirk, and they began pulling all these pieces together themselves. Candace has become a kind of spokesperson for truth and justice for Charlie Kirk, but she kind of like inserted herself into a process that was already organically underway. So these guys who position themselves as speaking the truth, none dare talk, the whole crowd was talking about it. And then they're all like, anyone who thinks this is crazy, they don't realize that they're actually going against what most people take on this is.
People are way smarter than them, you know.
Yeah, which is what Candace always said, never think you're smarter than the crowd, than the group.
When they're well intended and well aligned. Did you see Dan Bongino announce retirement?
No.
Yeah. He's leaving the FBI in January.
I did not see that.
Came too much for him.
Couldn't handle the bullshit, you know. Kash Patel, meanwhile, is...
Oh, he can.
He's
loving up in Israel.
The stories about him.
The shekels are flowing on that one, you know.
Yeah. So, maybe we'll see. Maybe it speaks to Bongino having...
a bit of integrity.
Yeah.
How could you not have, like, if you have any decency, like, and you get 9 months, whatever it is, of up close and personal with that, with the swamp and the bullshit, and
he's tried to send sort of,
and he's got to know stuff about. He's probably knows stuff about Charlie Kirk as well, and all that kind of stuff. And he's just decided, bye bye.
Yeah,
I hope so.
When did he announce it?
Just a few days ago. Couple days ago.
Yesterday. Okay, so around the time that the Epstein, the new super transparent, completely black Epstein files,
completely redacted.
Yeah, I can understand him getting so fed up with all of it at that point, and just being like, you know what, with Marjorie Taylor Greene on the same point of being like, there's no fixing this. There's no doing anything here.
Yeah,
and so I just stay in it and turn a blind eye to all the bullshit and keep, you know, try and make some money or something like that. I mean, if you feel you're better than that, you just walk away, right?
It seems like Tulsi has decided, at least so far, is to like, I know it's not actually going to do anything, but I still feel like it's my duty to do something.
Keep a low profile and collect what you can and whatever she can say to help it along. Maybe she if I were her, if you started off from that point of view, I might think of staying in that position just to be able to get access for my own information, basically. You know what I mean? To understand the whole system better, and maybe at some point, maybe after I leave or something, because she's only going to be there on like let's say until the end of Trump, right? She'll be gone probably unless JD Vance comes in or whatever. But she may leave of her own accord or whatever. But so just so you can understand the whole situation better yourself, you know. Because obviously in that position you are going to have at least some privileged access to information, and as long as you don't dig too deep and ask too many questions and open too many doors, but if you can navigate that, then you're going to understand and, you know, learn a lot more about how the whole system works, and then afterwards you can maybe talk about it, you know.
I said there's been not a peep from her this year. There was something, but it's not through her own mouth. Maybe that's what you're referring to. In the last couple of months, it was leaked that Tulsi's office had been trying to gain access to read the FBI case files so far on the assassination, and probably Patel himself had that leaked, there was a big blow up in the White House about it.
Mm-hmm.
She was specifically, the New York Times reported, trying to find information about any foreign links to the assassination. So she's doing her best. But then if she's under, she's not, she didn't set up a press conference or make a big expose about it. She was just doing it on the QT.
She's smart
and
enough.
Someone went, look what this bitch is doing.
Yeah. Even that was too much. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
On the Epstein file, all I have to say, I'm going to quote a great post I saw on X, one-liner pithy. I think it's redheaded libertarian. She just had a screenshot of one of the pages, and it's 100% blacked out. She just said, raping teenage girls seems to have an awful lot to do with U.S. national security.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I don't know, though. Still, there's photos, a gallery of photos here published in The Guardian. There's photos here, like, of Bill Clinton that are bad enough. There's none of Trump doing anything with anyone. Okay, first one, yeah, we're buddies. But if you scroll down, keep going, well, just scroll and let people see them. They've obviously blacked out people who are either victims or they're minors. This one, I mean, the blacking someone out is telling you because they had said it would be either victims or minors. So that's a photo, and it's Bill Clinton in a hot tub with either a child or a now grown-up former child masseuse of Jeffrey Epstein. That's the least you can say about that. I mean, it's damning enough. With Richard Branson, 2 more blacked out, minors or victims. We've seen this one before. This isn't the first time. This is Peter Mandelson, eminence grise of the Labour government in the UK, with a ridiculous birthday cake. This one we'd expect Jeffrey when he's younger, 2 topless chicks, okay?
3.
There's one more, carry on. Chris Tucker. I think it was known he was associated. He was on the Black Book and the Island. He's an actor. Is there one more?
David Copperfield.
With
Ghislaine.
Copping a feel.
This is from Ghislaine's British days. Probably a wedding or something.
Andrew.
And this one. I mean, Slick Willie, he's obviously on a plane. Again, minor. So it's damning enough. And it's not damning for Trump.
But Bill Clinton's obviously too old to prosecute at this point, right? It all comes out when it's... Because those pictures are probably, by the age of him, that's 25, 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's almost 80 years old now, you know? So, yeah. It's almost seen as, well, we can let that one pass because Clinton is past it. Anyway, will we wrap up?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's about as far as we should go because we got to go. Why was Cinderella so bad at soccer?
Go on.
She kept running away from the ball. Horrible, I know, but, you know, I've already told all the good ones.
And you're all out. You have to restock.
I'm all out. I got to buy more. Yeah, so we'll leave it there for this week, folks. We'll be back not next week because it's Christmas and everybody else will be doing Christmassy stuff. So a week after, probably. Hopefully no madness will, not too much craziness and madness will befall us over the Christmas period. So yeah, we hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for watching. Have a very happy Christmas. Whatever you get up to, have fun. And be nice to each other. And remember, it's all about the love, not about the law.
Amen.
So, see you next time. Bye.
Merry
Bye.
Christmas. See you next year.
Can't stop the signal now.